Welcome to People in Profit, where we look at how business shapes our world. I'm Stephen Carroll. Coming up, are investors giving up on Europe? We'll look at why markets are fretting over political risks across the EU. Will Snapchat go pop or flop? The stock market gamble that could help bring the messaging app to a big spending audience. And we'll go high into the Alps to bring you the story of a family-owned ski lift that survived against the odds. First up, though, elections in France, the Netherlands and Germany in the coming months are starting to cause concern among investors. Here in France, the National Front's Marine Le Pen is leading in the polls for the presidential election at the end of April, while in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders and his far-right Party for Freedom also look set to do well in elections next month. With voters also going to the polls in Germany later this year, the UK starting Brexit talks, and another looming debt standoff in Greece, the political landscape in Europe is heading for turbulent times. The markets don't like uncertainty, and investors have a lot to be uncertain about. So how worried should we be about upheaval in Europe? Alberto Gallo is Head of Macro Strategies and Portfolio Manager at Algebris Investments, and he joins me now from London. Alberto, thanks for being with us. You've written this article saying don't give up on Europe. Are there people in the business community who are giving up on Europe?
What we're seeing internationally is a rise in populism. We are seeing it in the US, we're seeing it in the United Kingdom. And now the risk is moving to Europe as well. This is the result of 10 years of growth that has been engineered by central banks and low interest rates, but has left a lot of people behind, the 99%. And the result is inequality is a reaction towards policies which promise cheap shortcuts and easy solutions. These solutions, like exiting from the euro in the UK or building a wall in the US, they're not real. Now, the problem with Europe is that it's an aggregate of a lot of countries, and it rests on a promise, on a political promise to keep it together. If you have a Le Pen winning in France, if you have Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, or Grillo in Italy, then this political stability gets broken. However, Europe is at the moment still the only place in Western countries where populism hasn't taken over, where inequality is still below the US and the UK, and perhaps we are the last beacon of democracy in the Western world.
You mentioned there some of the elections that are coming up this year. Is there one of those that investors are particularly worried about?
I would say definitely the biggest worry is France. We're the core of Europe. We have a problem of reforms in France where more reforms are needed. And we have a candidate which is promising exactly the same type of easy solutions, but wrong solutions that the Trump administration is thinking about in the US or that UKIP is promising in the UK. So protectionism, closing borders, imposing tariffs, breaking the euro. I mean, these are all things that would lead to a lot of bad consequences. Inflation, food prices go up, poor people pay more for it. And this is the legacy of Brexit in the UK, of the border tax in the US, and it could be of Le Pen in France. So this is the biggest worry, absolutely. For a lot of investors, the situation is too complex. So even just having the instability means that they don't look at Europe at all. On the other hand, if we had more stability after the elections, there would be a lot of investors that would come back to Europe and say, actually these European stocks or these European companies are very cheap. We need to invest here. So there's a lot of investors globally that have overlooked Europe because of the political risk. They could find themselves very short, very underweight versus something that is attractive. But we need the stability first.
And do global investors group Europe together as a bloc? Do they look at it when they're investing as saying, well, there's an election coming up in France, but that means that perhaps I might worry about investing in Germany or in, the Netherlands or in Italy or in Spain as well?
I think we got through a period after the whatever it takes moment by Mario Draghi at the ECB where there was less contagion around Europe. However, now that we have inflation rising in most of the countries in core Europe, like Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, even Spain and Ireland have inflation above or close to 2%, what this means is that the stimulus by the ECB is going to not last forever. It's going to end at some point. Even even quantitative easing doesn't last forever. And so contagion, what was before containing contagion, what was reducing the contagion risk, now at some point is going to fade. The ECB is looking at reducing its stimulus. And contagion is back. So if people are worried about Le Pen in France, they also don't invest in Italy.
Could this go the other way entirely? If Marine Le Pen doesn't win in France, if we don't end up with, populist results in the Netherlands and in Germany, could this then bring a boom to Europe? Could investors flood back and say, yes, we've seen the optimism and the potential here?
Now, this is something that not many people are looking at because, again, the political risk is overshadowing the fundamentals. But if you look at the macro data in Europe, silently, you see that there is a recovery. And Europe has been outperforming the US in terms of the recent economic surprises. Everything has been above consensus: inflation, growth, business sentiment, consumer confidence. So if you have a victory by François Fillon or Emmanuel Macron, and then you have in Germany Chancellor Merkel winning, but with a higher majority from the SPD opposition, so Schulz, who is more pro-European, then you could have a very strong Franco-German alliance. And then instead of worrying about elections, finally, you could have measures to invest in infrastructure, to invest in defense, now that NATO is withdrawing from Europe. And you could have finally some spending to accompany the recovery, which so far has been only guided by the ECB. OK, we'll have to wait and see what those results tell us. Alberto Gallo from Algebris Investments, thank you for joining us from London. Now, next to what might be the first ever stock market filing to use the words barf and sexting. Snap, the owner of Snapchat, is preparing to raise $3 billion on the New York Stock Exchange. The app shot to popularity for its picture and video messages that disappear after just a few seconds. This IPO values the company at as much as $25 billion. So is Snapchat a good investment? Kate Moody's been looking at the numbers and some of the app's more unique features. Kate.
That's right, Stephen. Snapchat is all about quirkiness. After all, who wouldn't want to receive a video of a friend doing this? The fast-moving app is geared towards young people. Of the 158 million daily active users recorded at the end of last year, nearly half are aged between 18 and 24, and 71% are under 34 years old. That base offers huge potential, but is not known for remaining loyal to one brand, as young users could quickly move on to the next trend. That may already be reflected in Snapchat's growth, which has dipped as rivals like Instagram and Facebook unveiled new competing services. After months of acceleration, the number of new people using the app on a daily basis began to drop slightly last year, with only 5 million new users in the last quarter. Snap is still a relatively young company that has yet to turn a profit. Most of its $400 million revenue in 2016 came from advertising, but that was outweighed by growing losses, $514 million last year. Relying on external providers to host and send data could be a further drag on finances going forward. In January, for example, Snapchat agreed to pay Google Cloud $2 billion for its services. With relatively weak finances and slowing user growth, it faces similar challenges to Twitter, whose failure to cash in on its popularity is seen as a cautionary tale in the tech world. That could lead potential investors to shy away from Snap's IPO. Fierce competition from more established rivals like Facebook means that Snapchat will have to stay ahead of the curve with fresh ideas, looking for the next way to revolutionize the social media landscape. CEO Evan Siegel, who will hold nearly a quarter of shares, has agreed to slash his own salary to just $1 a year after the IPO, meaning he is literally banking on Snapchat's success. Stephen?
Well, what a gamble indeed. Thank you, Kate Moody. Next, to an uplifting story about a family business in France. In the 1980s, local cooperatives took over most of the ski lifts in the French Alps. Just a handful are still run by families, and it's a business that faces challenges from new technology and increasing competition. Clément Bonnereau has the story.
This ski lift has been a familiar sight for as long as Christelle Combépine can remember. It was her late grandfather who built it 70 years ago.
Hello, have a good day. Look, she's not bad for a beginner.
It's the story of a family business spanning 3 generations and located in the heart of the French Alps in the ski resort of Léger.
I've been coming here since 1946.
Pierre Combépine was only 6 when he first came here. Back then, there were only a few chalets, but no roads and no electricity. Pine trees were used as pylons. Fast forward 70 years, and most mechanical button lifts have been replaced with higher capacity chairlifts and cable cars. This one is an exception. Dozens come here every day for its laid-back and festive atmosphere. Its founder, Georges Combépine, wanted to make it a place to meet new people and enjoy life.
When my grandfather was in charge, the whole lift was equipped with speakers, and at the time people had to be put in twos. Those who were single were put in a separate line, and once they were on the lift, my father would tell the men to kiss the women. It was like speed dating. A lot of people got married thanks to him.
After Pierre retired 10 years ago, many thought the ski lift would close. But it wasn't long before his daughter, Christelle, took over the family business.
Everyone was convinced that it was over. There were no boys left in the family, and they didn't think that a girl could take over the ski lift.
I think women are as capable as men. Of course, some tasks require strength, but I can climb a pylon to replace a safety device. I think it's a matter of will and adaptability.
High maintenance costs and increased competition are among the challenges Christelle faces on a daily basis. There are just 20 family-owned ski lifts left in France. Most were taken over by local cooperatives in the 1980s.
What a beautiful place to go to work. Well, that's all from us. If you've any thoughts on the stories that we've been covering, get in touch on Facebook at France 24 Business, or you can tweet me at NewsStephen. Until next time, thanks for watching.